All right, here we are. We're scouting for turkeys, but what we're doing is we are revisiting one of my kill spots. And what I like to try to do is at the end of the season come back and see if I can't figure out where they were coming from and where they were going to. Like I said, this particular spot I was sitting in a pine row, and I'll show you that in a little while. But all out in front here, real thick tie, and they don't walk through it, but they'll definitely bed up in it. But what they were doing was they were coming through these planted pines, and I'm kind of right towards the end of that particular deer's life. What I want to say is he came through here and crossed right here. At the time, this particular creek was full of water, but he was with a doe, and the doe came out first. She crossed, and I think they came right through here. I mean, right through here. Now, I did find some big clump droppings right in here. And I actually sat my climber over here. I think on that second... No, actually, it was that one right there. Sat my climber on that tree and kind of looked through the leaves and the limbs and didn't see anything. But the doe kind of came from over in this direction over here. And she walked across, and I was lucky enough I had my gun up on the bipod. And then when she fed through, I'd kind of relaxed. And then I caught movement and looked up, and the first thing I saw in my scope was a set of horns. And he was standing right here, and I was 102 steps in the gallberries. And just as he got right about here, I hit him, and I did not make a good shot, but I was lucky enough to where I hit him high and broke his spine, and that was that. And that was the second 8-point that I'd killed. And like I said, I just kind of like to mosey around. Every time I hunted back in here, I'd heard turkeys. So what I'm trying to do is just kind of find 2 or 3 little vantage points. And it doesn't look like these big trees are going to be in here much longer. I think this is timber company. They're either taking inventory or they're getting ready to cut. Yeah, that's timber company. So we'll see. But we're going to definitely hunt this during turkey season. We'll come in here early and see if we can hear them gobbling. If we don't hear any gobbling, what I'll probably do is put a couple decoys out and still hunt in here. Alright, like I was saying, this is where he fell, right here. And if you look down the pine row to where the gallberries get kind of tall and then the palmettos are kind of backdropping, that's where I was sitting. And I was sitting on a dove stool with a boat cushion with my head just over the gallberry branches. And the doe saw me, but she couldn't figure out what I was, so she kind of just dropped her head and kept moving. And then right after that, the buck came out. And then what we'll do is I'll walk down this row here. Like I said, it was 102 steps. And I was real lucky to find something that I could clear out real easy, because like I said, the deer I know funnel through these planted pines. Just in front of real thick tie. Well, it looks like they're still moving through here. Right here. That's somebody else's flag. It's an old flag, but I figured that'd be as good as anything. So I put my stool and sat right here. And this is the view that I had. The rifle was up on the bipod, and it was just luck, I think, more than anything else. I knew the deer were crossing around in these planted pines, and it was also in December, so that was one of the later nice rack bucks. I'd say nice for a management area, anything's nice, but he was an 8-point. So I'll take it. Worked. Yeah, there were some bucks in here. Thick gallberries, planted pines, lots of honeysuckle. Not a whole lot of browse, but when I cleaned that deer, the only thing that I found in its stomach was browse. There were no acorns at all, and we had a real thin acorn crop where I was. But I love this, love these thick planted pines. I know I've said that 100 times, but it's also a really great place on public land where you can get away from people. I actually had somebody ask me about the homemade lanyard that I use to clip the GoPro when I put it on my hat with the hat band. And as you can tell, I'm a saltwater fisherman. So what I did was I just took a 2-way swivel, some 200-pound mono, crimped it, and then crimped another tuna clip, and then I attached that to a button or my lapel or those little places on the real nice fishing shirts that have a place. I sew those down, and then I just clipped this to it, and everything kind of works out really good. And then if it blows off my head or my hat blows off or something like that, I don't lose my GoPro. Okay, this is the second place, first spot that I killed one this year. Like I said, little tiny oak strand in these planted pines. It was second morning of black powder, and basically what we're going to do is just kind of walk to the tree that has actually turned out to be a pretty good honey hole, because I've killed 2 out of this tree and seen 3 rack bucks. And what's nice about this tree is that it doesn't make any noise when you go up there, and then I got that little vine stuff that I can pull as I'm climbing, pull to the side, and then get right up into it, and it kind of makes a kind of a duck blind, if you will. Once again, acorns in here were thin, but when I got in here that morning, it was 84 degrees. It was real humid, but you could smell musk from deer. Now, later in the year, during gun season, I was using my grunt call, and I had one walk right over there. Didn't see it, didn't hear it until he spooked. And right as the sun was kind of coming up over the trees, I'm sure he caught a reflection of something as I turned my head or whatever, but he bailed out of there. And I couldn't see horns, but it probably was a buck the way he came in. And then, like I said, from left to right, right at daylight, a rack buck, and I think it's the second one that I killed from the spot we just came from. And my scope had fogged. I was perspiring from walking and climbing and carrying the climber. And by the time I got the scope cleaned off, he was over in here, and I just didn't get a clean shot. And then about 30 minutes later, the other 8-point came from over here in the planted pines, right to left. And as luck would have it, I was able to thread the needle and put a good hit on him. And that was my first one. So the second thing was right here last year is where I blew an opportunity open morning spring gobbler. And what we'll do is we'll walk up there and I'll show you what happened. All right, here's where I hit the deer. If you can see You can see my tree right there. That's what I was, and I got, for whatever reason, I got the shot under all the branches and caught him right here. And that was that. That's a 44 steps is what I counted from that tree to here. So I feel very fortunate that I was able to do that. And then after I shot him, he tore out in this direction here, probably went another 100 yards or so. And it's funny how when I was tracking him, the trail was kind of easy, but there wasn't a whole lot of blood. Once I found him and was coming back, I must have gotten to where the blood was splashing, because there was blood everywhere. So, like I said, I feel very fortunate to get him, and that's 2 8 points out of a management area in the same year, so that's not a bad year. All right, here's the turkey fail from last opening day spring gobbler. When I heard him, I was out at the woods road, back out there, and he just started thundering. And I had a pretty good idea where he was, and I mean, I walked right to him. He was right, I don't know, probably from those big pine trees up there. So I looked around, and I'm thinking, all right, where can I get? And I figured I'd put my rather large frame up against that skinny little pine tree right there. So I sat down and kicked up a little bit of, brush, and put the gun on my knee, clicked off the safety, and he came. I heard him fly down and heard him start walking. He got right on the edge of where it kind of opens up, and he gobbled again. Understand, I had competition. Somebody over here was calling and actually sounded like a professional. It was so good. In the back of my mind, I'm going, I'm going to lose this one because I'm not a good caller. I hit 2 little peeps on the slate call, but sure enough, he came out, and as soon as I saw his head, I exhaled to pull the trigger, and right at that split second, it was cold. It was in the 30s that morning. I think the vapor from my exhale, he saw that and was gone, and that was that. And he was, like I said, he's probably 20 yards away. I should have, the second I saw him, I should have mowed him over, but I did not. I was going to wait till he got a little clearer, and that cost me. So that's my tale of woe from last year's spring gobbler. But I heard a bunch of turkeys in here again when I was deer hunting, so I'm going to probably at least a couple of times come in here, and if I can't hear one gobble, then I'm going to sit back and put out some decoys and do a little blind calling. But this area's got some birds in it. Like I said, just about every morning I hunted here, and I probably hunted here a half a dozen times after I killed that 8 point. I heard turkeys, so we'll see.